Brian here from Expert Dojo. This is it, the Art of Startup War. I'm talking to a brilliant entrepreneur. This is going to be a short, to the point, 20-minute podcast, and it's 20-minute podcast to see, and it's just directed specifically at investors, so you can all look at this company in the same way that we did. Now, let me give you some context here. The founder here is a man called Garry Drummond. Garry I met about 3 years or so ago when my partner had already invested $3.5 million into his company. And my partner said to me, quote unquote, "This is a unicorn, not even in the making, it's a unicorn guaranteed." And I've got to know Garry over the last couple of years. I've got to see the OEMs that he's brought in, the resellers. I've got to see the clients that he's brought in. I've got to see the product as it's developed. And now I am getting to see the software as that's taking over. And I believed my partner Richard then, after he'd put in $3.5 million, and I believe it more now. Garry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Brian, for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting to you this morning.
So let's just hit it hard and to the point, right? Everybody's listening here. Everybody listening is an investor. All of those investors are looking to try and see how can they find the next big thing. Your company in particular is in the cybersecurity space, in a very particular place in that space. You've been growing your revenue to well into the six figures now, and you're doing phenomenal work here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the product and how it's moved from hardware to software and exactly what you have and where you believe it's going to go in the future?
Sure, Brian, would love to do so. So I think it's really important to understand that you're talking to a security professional. LOCH Technologies is the third startup that I've been involved in. And I spent, 10 years with the first startup on risk management, being able to help my customers identify risks prior to loss, prior to incident. I spent another 10 years with a company in the wireless space. This is where I really find my passion for cybersecurity. So I'm 6 years into, LOCH Technologies.
And by the way, Garry, those first two companies, tremendously successful, right?
Yeah, they got bought by bigger firms, Brian, and there were great exits for all involved. But where I'm going with this is I've been involved with this wireless. I'm a certified wireless engineer myself, but what the listeners need to understand is that first and foremost, we're moving away from a wired world to a wireless world. And therefore, in order to detect and assess and prevent exploitation from IoT, which is predominantly 80% of IoT devices are now wirelessly connected, there needs to be a new approach to solving that problem. And what we have done here at LOCH Technologies is we have built a machine learning platform, a platform we call, it's LOCH Machine Vision for 5G. It's basically a holistic way of looking at all communications in the wireless spectrum. And with the explosion of 5G, our artificial intelligence, our machine vision platform has really caught fire with some of the big OEMs in the telecommunications space, which is helping them detect and assess these new risks from wirelessly enabled IoT type devices.
And just to reinforce that, Garry, like the explicit intention of LOCH is to detect any threats that are coming in through the wireless, no matter what it is, whether it's going to be drones outside or cell towers or thermostats in a fish tank, or no matter where the entry point is, to be able to detect it and then to deal with it, right?
Correct, Brian. And really there's three major methods that hackers use to exfiltrate data from corporate networks. The first is kind of targeted, the second is opportunistic, and the third is through kind of espionage. But the number one problem that IoT devices have, and again, they're all wirelessly communicating, not just in the Wi-Fi spectrum, but could be across the broader spectrum. And if you think about it, Brian, a satellite, I'm just about to speak in a panel discussion about satellite security and terrestrial networking. Guess what? A satellite is an IoT object to me. It's a device, it runs an operating system, and it communicates over wireless. And the reason why I have value in this whole process is that, a lot of these IoT devices are using, they don't require DHCP to connect to the network. They don't use DNS, domain name services, to connect to the network. And it's because these IoT devices use self-discovery and self-configuration in order to communicate with one another, and they're autonomous, they're independently thriving. So therefore, when an attacker has a nefarious idea or is up to no good, right, he just needs to turn one of these devices on. And because they self-discover, they communicate between one another, they become a way to exfiltrate data. So this LOCH platform, this machine.
So what you're saying, sorry,
platform,
just so Garry, so I can make sure that this is really clear for the non-technical folks and for the non-cyber folks, it's real simple. Is that these devices are fantastic for access for us, and they're for access for us to get outside. But unfortunately, that's a swinging door. And irrespective of whichever of these wonderful access devices that we're using for whatever we want, the bad guys are getting in through the other side, and they're able to sneak back into our systems using those devices. And this is what LOCH has been put in place to make sure that it stops.
Yeah, we're interlocking the 5G-ness that's upon us, and we're also locking down the broad spectrum. So we have many clients that are using mission critical networks on 900 megahertz, 800 megahertz. And guess what? They have no visibility into that spectrum. And as security professionals, you can't defend what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I was just on the phone with a large city here in the Bay Area just yesterday, in fact, and their first responder network, Brian, is all on the 804 megahertz frequency. And they're like, why is it not working? Why is there this constant interference in my mission critical network? So the LOCH platform gives them this ability to look into the layer 1 spectrum, the layer 2 frames that communicate between the first responder networks and the towers. So we're providing this automated way of using applied operational intelligence, as we talk about, to be able to kind of pinpoint the sources of interference. Is it deliberate? Is it accidental? Is it a misconfiguration? 90%.
And I will say, Garry, it's just because I want to keep this very fast moving towards the traction and towards the money that you're looking to raise. And I want to make it really clear to all of the investors who are listening. Obviously, this is not something that you're going to work out within the next 15, 20 minutes, right? This is something you look into. And the same way that us as investors, we look at a number of things when we're investing in a company. We're looking, number one, do we have a huge problem that is existing in the market today and is likely to multiply in the future? I don't need to even answer that question. We all know what's happened with wireless. How many of you have got wires leading to the internet? None of you, right? The only wires we use these days are for power. So wireless is the present. Wireless multiplied by 100 is the future. And threat detection is one of the most important current areas within that. Number two, we then look at, are there any proof points that allow us to be a mathematician as opposed to a futurist? Like, I love to think that we're all, as venture capitalists, I love to think that we're all great futurists, but we're not. It's extremely hard to guess what will happen in the future. And I love mathematics because mathematics just means that we look at the traction a company has and says, are there people using the product? Yes. Are those people sticking with the product? Yes. Are those people big users or are they small users? And many of the users, and Garry will go a bit deeper into the companies in a second, but many of the users are large casinos, they are large municipalities, they are huge clients, and they are monster resellers. The people that are household names within America, they trust this system today. So as a venture capitalist, I feel great about that. Next point I then look at, especially within this space, is there any hardware? Or are we moving towards software? If I can get hardware and it's a great hardware, that's okay. But if I get software, that is a monster tick in the box because it means we can put that software into multiple other appliances from bigger boys and girls out there who want to sell their equipment with this software built in. This is software. The next thing I look for is, what does the team look like? It's like, okay, we got a great product. The product is selling. We have phenomenal retention. Nobody's leaving the product. We have phenomenal reviews coming back from it. Everything is great there. The traction speaks for itself, but do we have a team that can take it to the next level? And I want to move to that point if I can, Garry, because I know you and your experience and the hundreds of millions of dollars, not thousands of dollars of sales that you've done before, hundreds of millions of dollars of sales that you've done before, stand by you. So can we just talk through briefly you, your COO, and the rest of your team? And let's look how strong that is.
Yeah, sure, Brian. So like, any startup, when they get started, they need to be nimble, they need to be flexible, they need to be building this, product market fit. And what I did with my original engineering team, you're still with me, is that we're able to get product market fit in niche markets. You mentioned, the casinos. We're the de facto standard in the casinos. You also mentioned some critical infrastructure, I believe, and guess what? We've got numerous customers in critical infrastructure. As we've been able to grow sales, and we are growing, typically between 30 to 50% year-on-year growth, which is good. I was looking for opportunities to really get into a software SaaS-based model, and I really wish it was me that came up with it, but it was one of our telecommunications partners that actually said, "Hey, can you help us solve this particular problem in 5G?" And it just so happens it made me have an epiphany in saying, "Hey, by using our APIs, we can hook into the control centers to do a better job of cost management and performance." Right. Anyway, that allowed me to demonstrate very quickly that we could get traction in a new market with software-only, SaaS-based model. We call that product Airhook. It kind of feeds into the LOCH platform. But recently, I've taken on a chief operating officer, a guy called Jeff Manning. Mm-hmm. He is a well-respected executive coming from Cyberra. I've got I just recently added a CPO to the team, a guy called Ashok Madahala, who's my chief product officer. And the reason for that is that we're now building product market fit. As we've kind of crossed the chasm with the early adopters in the casinos and critical infrastructure, we've now got an opportunity with our 5G software only play to really go mass market. So I brought in talent to help me really accelerate the business, through Ashik and his team. And we have a global CTO that's just about to join the team as well, who comes from a very well-known company, been there, done it. He's actually, attracted investments, and he will be joining the team here very shortly. He's not on board yet, but he will be joining. But he's going to help accelerate the business into 5G. And the problem that we're solving there is that the number of devices is growing from 30, 40, 50 billion devices over the next couple of years. And having the ability to detect and assess risks as it relates to 5G at the network, device, and protocol layer is allowing my telecommunications resellers and OEMs to take advantage of what we've built here. So we are building a solid team around being able to execute on that. And what you have, the investors that are listening, my stock went up 200% last year. You have a micro cap stock that's just about to explode with some of the new OEMs that are coming on, particularly in the smart cities, smart city initiatives that we're doing, some of the new healthcare customers that we're embracing. And there's a great opportunity to get involved with a company that's still at an affordable price. But you talk to me 6 months from now, this stock will be another 200% increase.
Well, we're going for the Series A. Once we get to
Yeah.
look, this company is a well, as everybody can tell by my tone in this podcast, this is a well-established company. You got a phenomenal CEO. You've got a really strong team around that CEO. I've already explained all of the other points why we as investors believed that this was a phenomenal investment to get into. The next step for this company is to get its Series A next year, and after now bringing in this phenomenal software product, there's absolutely no reason why that shouldn't happen, and there's no reason why that shouldn't happen at a $20 to $30 million plus valuation. So, how much do we have left in the round, Gary? I think there's very little in there for the moment, right?
Yeah, we're about 50% done, Brian. So there is an opportunity to get involved at a strike price that's going to make anybody really significantly benefit. With the partnerships that are being signed up, with the technology partners that have signed up, and I'm talking about world-class firewall companies. I'm talking about companies that are in the network address control, technology integrations. Cisco's already, involved at the board level with the company. An individual that runs the wireless cloud business unit sees great potential in the company. So we've attracted, solid board members. I've now got a really solid, new team coming in. And I'm telling you, as an investor myself, I look for micro stock caps, small, cap companies. And we're at the beginning of something really special here. Now that we've found product market fit for 5G using our software machine learning AI platform, a platform we call Machine Vision.
Yeah, and Gary, I want to layer one extra thing in here, and then I want to leave you with the final word. I always remember when we brought in one of the top Indian investors that we know, and I'm leaving aside all of the cybersecurity folks who have looked at this platform and have said openly, this is phenomenal. Whenever this becomes a software platform, this is going to be explosive. On top of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're bringing in revenue right now. But I'll always remember when we brought in that very large Indian investor, one of the biggest Indian investors over in India, and he brought his cousin in. His cousin came in and looked at it and said, number one, without doubt, best software that I have ever seen in the cybersecurity space. And he was a cybersecurity professional. So look, our money is in here. There's $3.5 million gone into this company, and you are hearing the partner of the main investor who's put that money in saying it was the best decision we ever made. We believed back then this company was going to fly. We believe this company more is going to fly right now. Anybody who wants to contact you, let's give him your details, Gary, and let's finish with just a 60-second on why this is such an incredible investment opportunity.
Yeah, sure. So interested parties, that are interested in investing in this round can reach me at gdrummond@loch.io, as in, so GDRUMMOND at loch, LOCH, .io. And yes, as in Loch Ness, for those who don't know me, I was born just a few miles down the road from Loch Ness, as in the monster. So it's actually got a lot of authenticity to the founder. But like Loch Ness, it's mysterious and it's mystical. And so is wireless. So is 5G. A lot of people don't understand the risks and threats associated with it. So it's a good timing to get involved with this, machine learning platform for 5G. But that aside, the reason why I think investors should consider this is that there's 4 principles in which I run my business. And the number one is, follow through until you win. In my last 2 startups that I was involved in that were very successful, that was the catalyst behind the big multi-million-dollar deals that ultimately led them to getting acquired. Step number 2 is, as a CEO and a founder, I've never taken my eye off where the money's made. So I'm on the phone talking to customers, listening to the requirements, making sure my product market fit is on point and selling deals. We're going to double our revenue from last year to this year. And the third thing that attracts top talent like Jeff Mannings and the Ashuks and the others that are coming on board is that you've got to respect others like you would want to be respected yourself. Very important to me. And number 4, the reason why we've been able to stretch those $3.5 million is that I've been running the company as if I was poor. I've never taken on any debt, no debt in the company, and I've never overextended the business with regards to credit or, so what you have is a company that's no debt, profitable. I'm running a month to month EBITDA profitable business. I've been building it organically, and now I'm ready to, now that I've found true product market fit in a mass market of 5G, which is close to a $10 million market, I'm ready to take on a little bit of investment to expand the team and go capture that through the OEM telco partners that we have signed up already, papered with the company. So that's the 4 principles I live by, and it's allowed me to put me in a really good position to have a clean investment with a micro cap stock that has the potential to really do a private IPO through SPACs type of vehicle.
We'll see. Like where it goes. The only thing that matters is this: do we see the revenue going from a couple of $100,000 a month to $1 million a month, and do we see it going from $1 million a month to $10 million a month? The answer is yes. And if the answer is yes, who the hell cares where it goes to afterwards, right? The only thing is, everybody's going to make a ton of cash from it. So, like as usual, investors, do your own research on this. I'm telling you, I'm already planning to have a glass of scotch with this man as soon as he exits, which I see within the next 3 to 5 years. Check it out yourself. Do your own diligence. Go into it. But I'll just leave you with the words $3.5 million. That's what we've put into it so far. Garry, thank you. We're going to do this.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the time. Have a good afternoon.